We're back to the St. George Model Railroad Open House. That color country. They do it at St. George every year. Everybody opens, these groups open their house. Anyway, we're going to Jim Harper's.
One of my favorites.
Oh, this is one of America's great. We've been there before. Proto 48. So it's an O scale, but it's an O scale railroad, but Proto 48 standards are a little bit different than the regular O scale. Bottom line, it's just so much more realistic.
Oh, it is.
And Jim Harper's railroad is to die for.
It's wonderful.
And so check this out, Jim Harper's Railroad in St. George, Utah. Jim's Proto 48 railroad is huge. Takes up most of his basement.
It sure does.
Wow. So most of the railroad is the Southern Pacific, but this area right here in front is his little short line railroad, the Sacramento Northern. And the Sacramento Northern was a railroad that ran around the Bay Area, kind of mostly connected Sacramento and San Francisco, kind of, sort of. Electric railroad, a traction railroad, as you can see, running both trolleys and freight operations were being pulled by steeple cab locomotives. Now, Proto 48 is kind of its own way of doing O scale. It's a slightly different gauge so that it's accurate to 4 feet 8.5 inches. But check out Jim's track work. Every single tie has 2 tie plates and 4 spikes. I mean, it's as absolutely accurate as he could make it. Even the rail joints here, if you'll notice, are actual fish plates. Is that cool?
That is just amazing. Just tiny.
It's accurate. It's so accurate. And look at this switch. Those little blocks along the side are called chairs. They take the place of the tie plate, but look at that. He's modeled every chair. The switch is just absolutely accurate. And check this out. It's also a really complicated 3-way switch.
No kidding.
Now, all hand-built, of course, all scratch-built here at the bench. Just unbelievable. Now, the switch stands, as you can see, light up.
That's even more amazing.
He prototyped these years ago, and then he has the castings made. And he used to have a hobby shop and a distribution company, and he sold these. I think he still does. But these are all switch stands that were constructed, prototyped by him and then cast by someone else. Now, these engines work just like the actual traction engines, every axle powered with a traction motor.
That just astounds me.
Little teeny motors mounted on the axles, so 4 motors in each of these units. It's no wonder they run so well.
Yes.
Now, he isn't pulling the power through the overhead wire. He's not quite that crazy. But it all, the pantographs work and everything. He just pulls the power through the track. It's a much more reliable system. Now, as we said earlier, the bulk of the railroad is actually the Southern Pacific, and up here at the Sacramento Northern Yard, all of this traffic interchanges with the Southern Pacific. Now, the actual Proto 48 standards that they follow mostly involve track and wheel profiles and flange sizes and that sort of thing. But once you've established the fact that you're going to make the wheels and flanges and track as accurate as humanly possible, well, in Jim's case, that thinking just extends to every little detail of the railroad. Now, that area in the back where Jim is operating right now, that's the Southern Pacific over there. The part of the Southern Pacific that he's modeled is going up into the foothills of the Sierra Nevada, up toward Donner's Summit. He hasn't modeled the very high mountain stuff, but more the lower areas in the Sierra Nevada.
I noticed how high the bench work is.
Isn't that amazing? A lot of people will put their bench work in at around 48 inches. His is probably up around like 56 inches. So the era that he's modeled is probably that most favored of all eras, right around the post-war era. And that allows him to run his Southern Pacific engines in what was called the Black Widow paint job. Isn't that a beautiful color?
It's pretty.
I love that paint job. And then the SP ran some of the most unusual lights and horns and bells and stuff. So he's duplicated some of these really exotic headlights and that sort of thing. Now, on these steam locomotives, here again, the level of detail is just phenomenal. Again, a lot of people say, well, that's because it's Proto 48. Well, yes, the wheels and the wheel profiles and sizes there are Proto 48, but this level of detail is just because there's this level of detail.
Yeah, no kidding.
He's just modeled something that's just absolutely, unbelievably accurate. And of course, like all model railroads, it's never finished. He's adding Colfax. So here we are in the the uncompleted area, which will be Colfax, about, I don't know, halfway up to Donner Summit, something like that?
Something like that.
We had lunch there.
We did.
Now here again, the bench work's really high. This section through here, the trains are coming through right at eye level. And another upside there is, in order to get to the rest of the railroad, you have to go through a duck under. But because the bench work is so high, it isn't that much of a duck. It's just kind of a bend your head down and kind of slightly duck under and pop up on the other side. So there's certain advantages to having your bench work this high up.
A chair. Your little black chair.
Oh, yeah, I have that for 20 plus. I'd like to have another one. Somebody will find it, maybe.
What yellow would...
Now there's quite a few guys who come over here all the time to operate on the railroad, and they do realistic operation. As you can see, they're using way bills there and a card system so that they can do realistic operations.
Boy, would that be realistic too.
Yeah, with these trains, that's just really fun. So they have a good deal of fun operating the railroad all of the time. Now, one of the guys who operates over here is Bob Jarvis. And he was one of the O-scale guys back in the day. And he had a model railroad, which was also Proto 48, near Salt Lake City in a place called Summit Park. And, well, he moved to St. George.
Well, and I can see why. It's beautiful down there.
It's beautiful down there, and that way he can come over here and operate this railroad as well. So, of course, not only does Bob run over here, he can bring his own trains over when he wants to. But you know what he did?
What?
He brought his railroad with him.
He brought his railroad. How?
He did. Well, this railroad used to be in Sacramento, and it got moved here to St. George. So Bob broke his railroad up, and he brought it here too. So that makes two Proto 48 railroads within just a couple of miles of each other.
Oh, my.
Here's Bob's railroad.
Oh, well, there it is.
Now, he didn't have it on the tour, so we didn't get over there. These are just some still pictures from his website. But isn't this a neat railroad?
That is really cool.
And a few of these buildings I think he had on our old MRS railroad, but principally speaking, this is the railroad he had just outside of Park City. And a lot of what he's modeled here is Park City, including the Silver King Coalition building.
Well, there you go.
My favorite building of all buildings in the whole world. How about that? Well, that's neat. We've been there before.
We have.
But he's got the Sacramento Northern.
Yes.
And that blew my mind. Because he's got it's not done. I mean, railroads are never done anyway.
No.
He's working on Colfax, which is a part of the Sacramento Northern.
Right.
The Sacramento Northern is pretty much all dialed in now, the electric railroad there. But he's adding a little bit to the main line on the Southern Pacific.
Yes.
At Colfax.
Imagine that.
Imagine that. So that's really neat. He's continuing to work, and what a beautiful, beautiful railroad. We'll keep showing up to bother and annoy him. Anyway, if you haven't been over to the channel, pop over to the channel, and if you're not a subscriber, please subscribe.
Yes.
Easy way to do that is the blue button. We
Yes.
ready? Zing! Right there, blue button.
Yeah.
Well, we're not sure how you found this movie on the internet. We hope you didn't find it boring. And we will see you here on Tuesday with the Collector's Attic. See you then.
Bye.
Bye-bye.